Okay. Hello, I'm Nathan. I'm a member of East London Waterworks Park. I've lived in Leighton for 6 years, just down the road from the site I'm going to talk to you about today. Previously, I've helped launch a kids computer kit that is used by thousands of schools around the world called Keynote. I've also designed and managed master's programs for business executives to learn how technology impacts their companies. I'm currently a full-time parent. I'm excited particularly about this project that I'm volunteering for, the East London Waterworks Park, about my children and how they are going to grow up with an ambitious nature restoration project. So the problem, the setup of this project is that we should be living in harmony with nature as part of a biodiverse ecosystem. We are a part of nature, not separate from it. But in fact, our land in Waltham Forest is not currently set up to allow communities to fulfill that potential and the natural potential of the land and increased biodiversity. So we are, as a project, seeking to promote the protection of the environment by purchasing an old Thames water depot, returning it to nature in a way that allows for people to reconnect with the land through wild swimming and learn with nature in community spaces. The site that we are talking about is on Lea Bridge Road. It's a historic Thames water depot. You can see from the map here that it dates from 1894 and was even earlier than that, was named the East London Waterworks Park as part of a water filtration plant that provided clean water from London from 1829 until the 1970s. So where exactly is the site? It borders on between Walthamstow, Leighton and Hackney, between the marshes. It's 5.68 hectares in the heart of the Lee Valley Regional Park. It's classified as metropolitan open land, which means it's protected from inappropriate development by law. 5.68 hectares is just over 5.5 rugby pitches or 5.5 Trafalgar Squares. So it's a pretty big site. Bird's eye view is probably the best way to appreciate it. So luckily we have some drone footage to share. So here we are, flying over the site, approaching from the south, from Hackney Marshes. And you can see on the right, there is the existing filter beds, which we would like to uncover, and the sort of the concrete that the site we're looking at is enveloped just on the other side of Lea Bridge Road. You can see the ice rink, the Lea Bridge ice rink. So this big concrete slab here is the site that we're looking to develop. So in terms of current ownership, in 2016, it was sold by Thames Water to the Secretary of State for Communities and Local Government to build 2 free schools. This was protested by local members of the public, partly because of where it is, and also there are lots of the development that it would take to build lots of those free schools would go over is considered inappropriate on metropolitan open land. So in 2019, the planning permission was refused, and the government haven't appealed that decision. And we believe the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities, as it's now called, is open to selling the site. So as you saw, it's a big slab of concrete at the moment, surrounded by high fences. And what we'd like to do is remove those fences so that we can reconnect the area with the rest of the lower Lee Valley area, granting public access and offering people opportunities to immerse themselves in nature. We want to transform this sort of old Thames water depot of 5 hectares into a brownfield rainforest. And we can start by uncovering what's already there, the filter beds. So we believe there is freshwater aquifers underneath the concrete. So that's where we'll start. If we open them up, we could get 2 very sort of large pools for wild swimming. And then there's much opportunity to sort of chip away at the concrete, crushing it into different grades to create habitats for invertebrates and birds and all kinds of other animals. Planning and planting more trees and taking out the concrete and turning it into a brownfield rainforest site that teams with nature and connects different parts of people and wildlife. There are some existing buildings there from the Victorian era, and we'd love to give them a new lease of life in the space of communities, so allow communities to flourish in them. They are in really good condition at the moment. The engine sheds you can see here that we used with steam engines that pumped water to the filter beds. They're currently used for storage, but we think they could be used for community workshops, studios, labs, artists and scientists, bringing all of those together. And in fact, we've already started with connections to University College London, the London School of Architecture, Westminster University, Queen Mary's University of London. And we'd also love to start, it's got enough space for a forest school. So open access education amongst nature is part of the plan. Also the turbine house, there is one of the buildings that is connected to the weir, to the river, and drops up to 4 meters. So we'd use to, it's sort of semi-derelict at the moment, but we'd try and use that to generate energy and supply it back to the site. And so it's not just carbon neutral, but it's carbon negative. So we can share the energy that we make cleanly. So there's the map with what we're thinking, with the buildings included as well. We'd need quite a bit of skill sharing for the refitting of them, the retrofitting, and we'd like to sort of bring volunteers on site to skill share and create a positive response to climate change and bring more plants and wildlife to the area, so that there's also a space for people to volunteer for conservation tasks. So we imagine a democratic and accessible area that negates alienation and isolation and integrates everyone, some nature and people into the same space. So what are the benefits? Well, there's clear environmental benefits: flooding alleviation, carbon storage and sequestration, the increase in biodiversity, generation and use of clean energy, waste reduction, education benefits, the new community spaces I mentioned, the space for a new forest school, development of skills in retrofitting buildings, circular economy and clean energy, diverse biohabitats for diversity, and community organizing and land ownership, all new things that could be developed and skills shared on site. The economic benefits include the volunteer hours, goods and services purchased, there'll be a cafe there, those kinds of things, and the growth of the local social enterprise sector. Mental health benefits include stress alleviation from more green and blue spaces, volunteering activities, and the physical health benefits. It's a safe space for wild swimming. It could be more community recreation spaces and increased air pollution removal from more plants and trees replacing the concrete. But who are we to even say we should try and to make this happen? We're in essence a group of people, local people from Waltham Forest, Hackney and the surrounding area, who've mostly been meeting on Zoom to discuss this idea for about 1.5 years. We're making lots of progress, but we're also learning as we go. So this is the major thing that we've done so far. We ran a crowdfunding campaign back in April, which had a goal of £30,000, which we achieved way ahead of schedule and effectively doubled. Having overfunded, we spent most of the rest of the year working on the 4 things we raised money for. So getting the land valued with a surveyor, which will help us enter into negotiations with the landowner. Office of Stella Creasy, Walthamstow MP, has already offered to help us make contact with the government property company that's already managing the site's disposal. In the ideal scenario, we'd agree a price and then be given a set number of years to make the money to buy the land itself. Secondly, we've been working with civil and environmental engineers to test the feasibility of the designs. That will include water strategy, natural treatment of the water and in the wild pools, and the relationship to the River Lee. We'll also be looking at existing concrete substructures and exploring energy strategy with the engineers. Thirdly, we've been working on with visual designers to give the project a strong visual identity, which will need to be raising money to actually buy the land itself. And finally, we've been carrying out research and listening with the local community. Our aim is to ensure that everyone feels welcome in and around the project of the East London Waterworks Park. So we want the park to be inclusive for all. And to do this, we need to bring in the community and understand people's needs as a whole, so that we're reaching out to a wide range of different groups and individuals where there might be barriers to figure out how we can get everyone involved. And where there are sort of a bunch of different working groups that we have. So the governance circle, They organise the various policies that we are working with. The Learning Circle, that is the group that I lead. So we're figuring out exactly how we work with education partners that will eventually be on site. The Design Circle, that's sort of figuring out the nitty-gritty of the feasibility and exactly how things are going to work. The Inclusivity Circle is about making sure that everyone feels welcome. Communication Circle is involved in the social media strategy, and the fundraising circle is ensuring that we have enough funds to continue the project. So tips for starting your own project like this, I would say figure out what problems you want to solve, figure out what skills you might need, what skills you already have, find like-minded people, and just start organizations, because that's sort of basically how this started. We figured out a problem. We met with like-minded people, we figured out what skills we had, and we started meeting regularly, every 2 weeks, every week, every month on Zoom, to figure out what needed to be done. So how can you get involved if you'd like to? You can get involved by subscribing to our blog, first of all. You can keep up to date with us if you go to elwp.org, you can find the blog page there, and that will be where we're sort of updating the activities that we're up to. And if you want to join a circle meeting, you absolutely can as well. So if you go to the Join Us tab at elwp.org.uk, you can find another description of the various circles and what they do. And then if you fire an email to info@elwp.org.uk and tell us which circle you're interested in and why, you would be more than welcome to join one of the meetings and see what else is happening. Thank you very much.